Welcome to Reimagining Asia's Energy Future. And I'd like to introduce myself first. Hi, I'm Celestia. I'll be your moderator for today. I am a drag queen and a climate activist from the Philippines. And thank you very much for giving your time to be in this webinar. And we are so excited to have a conversation on renewable energy and climate justice and everything that truly matters right now. Um, as an introduction, can everyone type in where they are from and how they are doing right now through our chat box? All right. Chat is disabled. Oh, maybe we could type it in our Q&A box rather, just to have a little introduction with everyone here. I know everyone's so excited for the talks and the knowledge sharing right now, but just to have a little bit of energizer. Oh, we have from the people of Asia for Climate Solutions from the Philippines. Hello. And we also have someone joining from Madagascar and from Japan. And while everyone else is typing in their countries, I'd like to welcome everyone once again to this webinar. It is organized by 350.org. 350.org is a global grassroots movement dedicated to ending the age of fossil fuels and building a world of community-led renewable energy for all. Now, you may be wondering why we are here in this webinar right now. Well, imagine if the world's biggest continent were powered by the sun, the wind, and the people. This is what drives Reimagine Asia, a vision where people and communities, not billionaires or polluters, power our future with clean and renewable energy. And at this point, we are at a crucial juncture, since we are fast approaching the dangerous 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. And Asia is feeling the heat. I know, as someone from the Philippines, as a global South baddie, um, aside from me, the world is heating up. It's truly very hot in the global South. And I know that in some parts of Europe, everyone could also feel the heat waves. I know that's not me, that's the climate crisis. But we're not only are world leaders not doing enough to stop this climate catastrophe, they're even taking away what little climate commitments have already been made. So we say enough. When our leaders won't act, the answer is us. Across Asia, communities are already moving towards tangible, people-centered climate solutions. And today, we will center our attention on these inspiring stories of change. Stories that challenge corporate-driven energy narratives. Stories that show our leaders this is the just and livable future that Asia wants. So now eyes on your screen for a video.
This is Asia, where billions of people live in cultures and landscapes as rich and diverse as our stories. We share a past and a present under siege.
For us, climate change isn't a future threat. It's today's reality.
It's not just about disasters. It's about life more difficult in a planet destroyed by greed, unaffordable food and electricity, unbreathable air, unbearable heat, livelihoods and cultures vanishing as the planet warms and the oceans rise.
But what if we told a different story? What if we powered our lives with clean, community-centered, renewable energy?
Imagine lower costs of living. Imagine affordable energy for all. Imagine communities that thrive, not just survive. Imagine justice for those who have too long been marginalized. Imagine sustainable cities built for and by the people. Imagine clean air and not having to worry about tomorrow.
This isn't just about solar panels and wind turbines. It's about putting power back in the hands of the people. We may not be able to predict the future, but together we can reimagine it. Join us.
Wow. Together we can reimagine our future. Well, some of you might be wondering what Reimagine Asia is, and to give us a briefer on what it is, let us welcome Cecilia Normala Dewey from 350.org Indonesia team to explain what this is all about.
Thank you so much, Celestia, and good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. My name is Cecilia, and I'm Indonesia team lead. Today, I'd like to introduce Reimagine Asia. You have seen it in our poster, so let's dive in. So Reimagine Asia is a framework for community-led action driving a just energy transition across our Asia region. Now, let's briefly examine our current reality as Asia. We are facing several interconnected challenges where we have deep dependency on fossil fuels driving economic growth. We are developing rapidly, industrializing rapidly, that also increase our energy demands. And at the same time, we are facing heightened vulnerability to climate risk across the region. However, we are also witnessing unprecedented opportunities, right? Where we've seen growing momentum towards renewable energy development. We've seen increasing affordability of clean technologies. And we're also seeing that there is rising grassroots movements demanding climate action that is joined by people from diverse backgrounds. And the transformative potential lies within these two, where we can bridge these realities by connecting the grassroots innovations with institutional frameworks to effectively decentralizing solutions that empower communities. In Reimagine Asia, we believe that we need to approach just energy transition with several core values. The first one is that we want to go beyond decarbonization, where we center our effort in justice, resilience, and empowerment. And we want to be led by communities. So actions would be community-led rather than waiting for the leadership. As we know what's happening across the region with authoritarianism rising in many countries in Asia. So we want to reclaim power for people and planets, and that here we're not just focusing on infrastructure, we're building movements. And at its core, Reimagine Asia framework provides an approach for equity-centered decarbonizations that built on three interconnected pillars. The first one is the pillars of realizing solutions. Here we empower grassroots movements by building capacity to organize for renewing power. We build community of practice to share knowledge and resources. We also support decentralized initiatives that challenge fossil fuels dominance and large-scale renewables that further exacerbate injustice. And the second pillars, we are bridging solutions. Through strategic communication and storytelling, we document community success stories through multimedia platforms. We connect grassroots innovations with policy frameworks, and we amplify local voices in national, regional, and global conversations. And the third pillar is enabling solution pillar. So with the collective power that we build and the community RE champions showing the way, we engage with decision-making institutions to advocate for enhanced climate ambitions aligned with the Paris Agreement. We also push for fair financing mechanisms that prioritize vulnerable communities. And we push for policy reform that enable community-led initiatives, as well as strong environmental and social safeguards. And to translate this framework into action, Reimagine Asia focuses on three key elements. The first one is low carbon insurgencies, where we support decentralized movements that challenge the dominance of fossil fuels in our economies. We also support movements that create the alternative models of energy production and consumption, also those who are building resilience from the ground up. And we harness the power of narratives by documenting community-led solutions through compelling multimedia. We visualize alternative futures that center equity and sustainability. And we also work to translate complex climate concepts into accessible stories. And the third element is climate leadership, where we invest in emerging leaders from diverse backgrounds, providing them with advocacy skills to engage effectively with policymaking bodies, basic technical knowledge to propose viable alternatives, as well as networking opportunities, so we can build powerful coalitions across Asia. And Reimagine Asia's urgency is clear. Asian governments now face pressure from fossil fuel trade deals. These deals threaten energy sovereignty. Agreements to import US oil and gas undermine climate commitments. They ignore renewable potential, and this is why community-led renewable energy initiatives matter. So stories from projects in Indonesia, Nepal, Japan, and the Philippines that we are going to hear shortly are necessities. They're not just alternatives, because locally owned clean energy creates resilience, it improves livelihoods, it delivers true energy independence, which is impossible with continued dependency on fossil fuel. And to conclude, Reimagine Asia isn't just about decarbonization. It's about justice, empowerment, and reclaiming power for the people and the planet. We envision a future where communities hold the reins of the energy transition, where prosperity is shared equitably, and where our relationship with the environment is regenerative rather than extractive. By bridging grassroots innovations with institutional frameworks, we can create a movement that is both deeply rooted in local realities and powerful enough to drive systemic change. I invite you to join us in Reimagining Asia, not as it is, but as it could be. Thank you. Back to you, Celestia.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. And in the journey towards climate justice, what we really could have is to give back the power to the people. And before we kick off our exciting panel conversation, 350 Asia is proud to debut a short video on a community-run micro hydro project in Indonesia. So everyone, all eyes on your screen for Kulon Progo Micro Hydro.
Ini mulai 2012 di bulan-bulan akhir ya, Pak. Bulan-bulan akhir tahun 2020. Sosialisasi itu pun tidak mudah, Pak. Panjang itu perjalanannya. Warga itu tidak tahu mikro itu apa, nolak, itu teman nolak. Belum tahu, baru tahu mikro itu sebenarnya kan cuman pembangkit listrik dari dinas pengairan pun ragu-ragu, Pak. Yang ditakutkan airnya nanti kurang nyampe di bawah sana, Pak. Jadi kalau dulu umpamanya di Gapotan di seluruh Kulon Progo itu ini tetap milik dinas PUSDM. Tapi begitu jadi, kita dikumpulkan, umpamanya dari dinas itu menyerahkan kepada warga ini untuk dikelola. diminta menjalankan, nanti hasilnya listrik itu dipakai. Bikin usaha untuk bidang ekonomi, syukur alhamdulillah, itu yang diharapkan dinas. Nah, kan di sini itu ada pertemuan lapangan untuk poin aja. Nah itu akhirnya udah diserahkan sih, mudah-mudahan ini belajar mengelola. Yang pertama itu untuk listriknya, nanti gimana mempelajari cara bikin jaringan yang. Yang kedua itu cuma dikasih tahu, oh ini alat yang mau dipasang di tempat jenengan, kembalikannya awalnya dari sini ya gitu, sekolahnya gitu dulu Pak, karena nanti kalau ada trouble kita biar bisa ya sedikit-sedikit ngatasi. Aku hitung, wah PLN ku nggak saya pakai, tak hitung-hitung 1 tahun itu aku bayar PLN 650.000 Pak. Akhirnya aku putusin PLN Pak, aku cuma bayar mikro-hidro 19.000 35 hari. Kalau di sini alhamdulillah ini sudah 50 kakak pakai. Tapi ya juga masih ada yang belum. Ya tetap bertambah. Nanti lama-lama kan habis Pak semua.
Wow, community-led solutions are truly the future of our generation and the next generations to come. And I know everyone's so excited to hear what our speakers have to say and what their stories are. So we have invited speakers from across Asia to fire up a conversation on how communities are powering their own lives with renewable energy. It is a glimpse of how the rest of the region can reimagine its own fossil-free future. So first, we're pleased to have with us a research fellow of Digo Bikas Institute from Nepal, Omkar Subedi. We're also pleased to welcome Arina Imai of Sun Suita Community Power from Japan. And lastly, we warmly welcome a community leader of the Gunung Sawur microhydro community from Indonesia, Ibu Arbatuun. So if the audiences have any questions for our community panelists, please type them into the chat and we will answer them after the talk. We will also have an English and Bahasa interpretation for this panel, so kindly select the language you want to listen to and the interpretation button. So let's begin. Let's start with Nepal. Omkar, would you like to share the story from one of the communities Digo Bikas is working with?
Hello everyone, am I audible? Hello everyone and namaste from Nepal. I'm just waiting for my presentation. Hello again, I'll be sharing and talking a bit about the community-owned solar microgrid that Digo Bikas has been working, and it's in Dapsung village. It's in one of the remote areas of Nepal where there was not initially any energy supply. So what we initially did was we installed a solar panel that was set up in 2016, and it electrified a total of 52 households in the whole village, and it had the total capacity of 16 kilowatt. Initially, the village lacked any energy sources. There was no any main line. So we went to the village during the time of a massive earthquake as a relief, but later found out that the village lacked the energy sources, and the energy is one of the basic requirement for any community to develop. So we thought it is very necessary to have the community's own energy system. So we installed the solar panel back in 2016, and the people there now have a quality energy through solar panel. Next slide, please. So here are some of the pictures, how the solar panels were originally installed. The terrain that the solar panel is currently lies in a very high hill, which do not have had the proper road facilities back then. So a lot of villagers came together carrying the big panels on their back in such a difficult terrain, and they gave the foundation, or they gave the basic requirement how difficult the energy system in a lot of Nepalese context are. And this also shows a lot about the energy democracy and how energy access is still a limitation to a lot of rural communities in places like Nepal. And I think a lot of the cases is similar in a lot of areas of Asia as well. So a lot of people do not have even the access of a basic energy sources to have their day-to-day life electrified. So this village was one of the very initial places where we started doing the solar energy system, and a lot, and thanks to the communities and their hard work, we were able to transport the solar panel, heavy batteries way up in the hill. Next slide, please. So if we talk about the energy system that currently exists, the whole energy system has been successfully handed over to the woman group living in the Dapsung village. So they are the one who own the whole energy system. So the energy that are produced in the solar panel are distributed to each households, and each households, they collect monthly tariff of Nepalese 100 rupees, and the tariff is collected by Dapsung Women's Group. And along with the tariff, Dapsung One Group have formed a cooperative around the whole energy system, and it's a registered cooperative where they do monthly savings and gather other money from different sources. And the Hapsung Women Group now is a very independent and self-sufficient unit which functions around the solar and also the livelihood of the community living there. So from the tariffs and the monthly saving that they collect, the cooperative then invest the money, or the people in the cooperative use those money, like could be their saving, could be the interest that has come up from their savings and on, and they can even borrow a very small amount of loans from the cooperative itself, and they use those money in very different aspects of their livelihood, which could be agriculture, education, and other income generating activities. So not just the solar are not just providing electricity to the houses, but they have been giving a system to the whole community, not just about energy, but also about income generation and being financially independent. And the Dapsung Women Group lies in the very core center of it. And the women living in the community, they are the ones who own it, they are the ones who take care of it, and they are the frontline beneficiaries of all the tariffs and other financial collection that being made in the whole Dapsung village. And through those women group itself, the money has been used as very different sources. And talking about building around the energy system, as I mentioned, like it doesn't only revolve around having a bulb in the house or having electricity in the house. Through that, they have been able to build a different avenues. We can see like a lot of agriculture being done there, a lot of community works, community housings, community water supplies, and they have learned with the power that how community power is the ultimate solution moving forward. And through the community work, they have built a system around the solar panels itself. So next slide, please. So one of the major elements of their system or the things that they have been doing is agroecology. Through the power from the solar, they have been not just the housing or not just the electrification, but we are trying to help them build the tunnel farming, or like help them build nursery and how we prepare plants in the nursery and how they can actually get an alternative source of income generations to different avenues. And few of the things that DVI has been working with Dapsung is also the upliftment or promotion of agroecology. So in this time, we see a lot of big agricultural entities pushing forward for things like climate smart agriculture, which in place is not the real solution and not people oriented. So we are trying to teach community how agroecology, the traditional practices that we have, are the actual solutions to addressing climate crisis. And the community has been doing great in agroecology, ranging from tunnel farming and preparing their own biopesticides. And they are not just preparing food for themselves, but they are now being able to sell those food to the farmers market here in Kathmandu itself, and they're also getting some alternate income sources along with it. Next slide, please. So now what we are now trying to do is the village or the area is a little prone to frequent lightning, and a lot of batteries have frequently been damaged there. So what we are trying to do, along with the community consultation and also with the collaboration of the local government there, is to reestablish or re-maintain the whole energy system, and not just have the energy system flowing, but to take it a step forward. We are also planning to use the energy for any productive end use, so that community could get some alternative income generation through the productive end use. And one of the discussed thing that the energy could go on is community electric stone grinder. So a lot of wheat, maize produced there, they use a traditional stone grinder to make the flowers. So in place of that, we are also thinking of having a productive end use around those things and give them an alternative space to generate more income. And also another thing that we are thinking about is net metering. Since a lot of electricity produced there, they still do not have the capacity to use it fully. So one thing that could also support them financially is the concept of net metering, where the surplus energy could go directly to the grid, and they will in return get lesser, they will have to pay a lesser money for the energy that they have been using, and eventually the extra money that comes from the difference that can be used by the women group for a lot of different avenues. So these two are few of the concepts that we are discussing currently with the community, and also we are also trying to tie up local government here, so that the people there have the maximum ownership, and also the local government owns or have some ownership on the thing that the local community has been doing. So moving forward, we are trying to incorporate both productive end use and net metering. So here are some of the pictures of our recent visit. So, and also the pictures of both community consultation and the meetings that we have been doing there. So with the energy there, they are not just powering their home, but they are powering their own livelihood, using those energy to different avenues like agriculture, education, and community development as a whole. And in the pictures also, you can see it's in a very difficult terrain. There is not a proper road facility yet, and you can still also see the housing and how they are living. So they're still deprived of a lot of what we call development or infrastructural thing, and having a proper energy, having a reliable energy could actually be a first step for them to have a quality life. So not just about sharing the stories, but we have also tried to make a very structured thing that we do, so that it can be replicated in a lot of different places around Nepal as well. So we have few publications available in Digo Bikas website. So one of the thing that I've shared, since we have a very short time, I've just briefly described how things are going on there. You can find more about the Dapsung community solar microgrid in the left publication, and also the potential or how net metering could be a solution moving forward, and a tool to energy democracy. So these are few things that DVI has been doing in the community of Dapsung. So we believe energy access is still a very big problem in places like Nepal and a lot of different Asian countries. And for the solutions, people-oriented energy systems, or the energy system that people have the whole ownership of, is the real solution. And a lot of solution that has been proposed in our areas are giving private companies the more rights or more space for them to make the solar as a market. But we do not believe that will help the communities the way the community-owned solar microgrids or community-owned energy system has been helping. And we believe that the real solution lies on people's power and our ownership on our own power, rather than being dependent on any big entities that provide electricity or provide energy for profit generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omkar, for your presentation. And your project in Nepal is truly a testament that climate-friendly solutions, especially renewable energy, are not only empowering for communities, but it can also be a source of livelihood, especially for people in far-flung areas. And also, it tackles an intersectional approach wherein women are also becoming leaders in their own communities. So thank you for that. And I know everyone has a lot of questions in the chat. I see some of them, but now let's hear from our friends in Indonesia. Let's welcome Ibu Arba Tuun. Can you share about your community micro hydro project?
Ya, terima kasih. Mohon izin perkenalkan, nama saya Arba Atun, selaku pengelola PLTMH Gunung Sawur. Pada kesempatan ini saya menyampaikan terkait dengan energi terbarukan berbasis halo. Ya, latar belakangnya ketergantungan pada energi fosil masih tinggi yang berdampak pada lingkungan dan ekonomi. Komunitas pedesaan ada yang belum terjangkau listrik. Indonesia mempunyai potensi besar energi terbarukan, baik tenaga surya, angin, air maupun biomasa. Energi terbarukan memberikan solusi ramah lingkungan yang berkelanjutan. Next. Apa itu energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas? Energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas adalah sistem penyedia energi yang dapat diperbarui dan ramah lingkungan, yang dirancang, dimiliki, dikelola dan dimanfaatkan langsung oleh masyarakat lokal dengan tujuan untuk memenuhi kebutuhan energi mereka sendiri secara berkelanjutan dan mandiri. Dengan ciri utama yaitu sumber energi ramah lingkungan dengan memanfaatkan sumber daya alam seperti matahari, angin, air maupun biomasa. Berbasis komunitas yaitu masyarakat lokal berperan aktif dalam perencanaan operasional maupun pengelolaan. Skala kecil hingga menengah disesuaikan dengan kebutuhan energi komunitas, tidak berskala industri. Bersifat kolektif biasanya dimiliki bersama oleh sebuah lembaga. Apa itu sudah? Next. Manfaat energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas. Seperti kita ketahui bahwa penggunaan energi terbarukan membawa manfaat besar tidak hanya bagi lingkungan tapi juga bagi ekonomi dan masyarakat. Terkait dengan kemandirian energi. Suatu contoh pada saat di tempat kami terjadi erupsi Semeru, energi dari listrik dari PLN padam selama beberapa hari, akan tetapi di tempat kami karena ada energi terbarukan masih tetap menyala. Kemudian penurunan biaya energi jangka panjang dan menjadi sumber listrik murah bagi masyarakat. Pada saat ini masyarakat sering mengeluh karena biaya energi dari PLN mahal. Akan tetapi dengan adanya energi terbarukan sangat membantu bagi masyarakat di tempat kami. Menciptakan lapangan kerja baru lokal. Otomatis dengan adanya energi terbarukan di tempat kami ada lapangan kerja baru lokal seperti ada lapak-lapak atau warung-warung yang memanfaatkan energi terbarukan untuk dijadikan sebagai lapangan pekerjaan. Untuk peningkatan ekonomi desa dengan adanya lapangan kerja yang baru, otomatis meningkatkan perekonomian yang ada di desa kami. Peningkatan kesadaran lingkungan. Dengan adanya energi baru terbarukan, masyarakat mempunyai kesadaran terkait dengan kebersihan lingkungan. Mereka sekarang tidak lagi untuk membuang sampah di sungai yang mengakibatkan akan terhambatnya saluran air yang ada di sungai, aliran PLTMH di tempat kami. Pemberdayaan perempuan dan pemuda. Pemberdayaan perempuan kalau di zaman dulu awal-awal ada energi terbarukan di tempat kami itu perempuan itu tidak pernah dilibatkan. Akan tetapi seiring berjalannya waktu sekarang perempuan ada keterlibatan termasuk di dalam kepengurusan maupun bahkan di tempat kami ada perempuan yang membantu untuk mendesain mesin energi terbarukan yaitu PLTMH itu. Next. Dampaknya bagi lingkungan dan iklim dengan adanya energi terbarukan, karena energi terbarukan terutama di tempat kami adalah PLTMH, mikrohidro, sehingga di tempat kami tidak ada polusi karena menggunakan air sebagai energinya. Terus penggunaan sumber lokal mengurangi jejak karbon otomatis dengan adanya energi terbarukan di tempat kami jauh dari polusi, melindungi sumber daya alam secara berkelanjutan. Dengan adanya energi terbarukan, masyarakat sekarang mulai sadar tentang untuk menjaga alam dan melestarikan alam supaya sumber air itu tetap lestari untuk dan berkelanjutan untuk energi terbarukan di tempat kami. Next. PLTMH Gunung Sawur contohnya di Kecamatan Candipuro, Kabupaten Lumajang, Jawa Timur. PLTMH di tempat kami bisa mengaliri listrik di dusun kurang lebih 118 rumah dan 19 lapak atau warung. Kegiatan ekonomi dari energi terbarukan tersebut sebagai penggerak perbengkelan konstruksi dan manufaktur. Di tempat kami dengan memakai energi terbarukan untuk menggerakkan perbengkelan yang menghasilkan yang produksi mesin-mesin turbin air. Dan untuk pengolahan hasil pertanian yaitu di tempat kami dengan adanya energi terbarukan itu bisa mengolah hasil panen seperti pisang untuk dijadikan keripik dengan vakum drying. Sebagai desa wisata, energi bidang pembangkitan skala kecil. Nah, di tempat kami dengan adanya energi terbarukan bisa menarik masyarakat, menarik wisatawan untuk datang ke tempat kami. Untuk apa? Untuk melihat tentang energi terbarukan di tempat kami. Next. Mekanisme pengelolaan komunitas. Yang pertama yang dilakukan yaitu identifikasi potensi energi terbarukan lokal dengan kita mensurvei sumber energi dan melibatkan masyarakat di mana ada potensi untuk energi terbarukan. Kita melibatkan masyarakat dan pengumpulan data sebagai sumber daya. Kemudian setelah adanya identifikasi potensi dan pelibatan masyarakat, di situ membutuhkan sebuah lembaga atau komunitas energi. Lembaga komunitas energi tersebut kita bisa mengajak warga maupun tokoh masyarakat ataupun perangkat desa sebagai pengurus maupun sebagai pengurus dalam kelembagaan komunitas energi tersebut. Penyusunan rencana bisnis dan operasional. Di sini dengan adanya energi terbarukan yang akan dibangun ke depannya nanti otomatis kan ada musyawarah untuk kedepannya untuk apa energi nanti, hanya untuk penerangan saja atau untuk bisnis juga ataupun pelayanan yang lain. Tantangan dan solusi dalam mengembangkan energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas. Yang tantangannya pertama yaitu memang energi terbarukan terutama PLTMH itu biayanya tinggi. Terus kurangnya keterampilan teknis dan manajerial dalam pengelolaan energi terbarukan PLTMH. Regulasi dan perizinan yang kurang mendukung keberlanjutan jangka panjang dan belum diakuinya energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas atau PLTMH sebagai bagian dari sistem listrik nasional. Solusinya yaitu dukungan dari pemerintah sangat penting, serta adanya pelatihan teknis dan kemitraan dengan LSM maupun perguruan tinggi. Next. Peran pemerintah dan masyarakat. Kerjasama antara pemerintah dan masyarakat diperlukan untuk mempercepat adopsi energi terbarukan secara luas. Peran pemerintah di sini dapat mengambil langkah strategis melalui pembuatan kebijakan, pemberian insentif dan investasi infrastruktur energi hijau, serta mendukung edukasi publik tentang kemanfaatan jangka panjang energi terbarukan. Peran masyarakat, yaitu masyarakat berperan dengan mengadopsi gaya hidup ramah lingkungan, menggunakan teknologi hemat energi, dan mendukung kebijakan pemerintah. Kesimpulan, energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas berpotensi menjadi penggerak ekonomi dengan menciptakan lapangan kerja, meningkatkan pendapatan, dan mendorong pertumbuhan ekonomi lokal dengan melibatkan masyarakat secara langsung dan pengelolaan sumber daya energi terbarukan, tercipta kemandirian energi dan mengurangi ketergantungan pada energi fosil. Namun, tantangan terkait pendanaan regulasi, teknologi, dan peningkatan kapasitas, serta belum diakuinya energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas sebagai bagian dari listrik nasional, perlu adanya sinergi dan kolaborasi dengan berbagai pihak agar energi terbarukan berbasis komunitas dapat menjadi kunci untuk pembangunan berkelanjutan dan ekonomi yang lebih inklusif, terutama di daerah pedesaan untuk generasi yang akan datang. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Ibu, from Indonesia, and their community-led renewable energy project is a testament that renewable energy is not only empowering, but it's also cost efficient. And if used properly, if it is democratized, then it could empower more communities as well. Thank you very much again. And lastly, we'd like to call someone from Japan, from the Sun Suita Community Power, Irina Imai.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for today's opportunity to speak here. I'm Irina, and here today to introduce a community power project from Suita City, Japan. And we are citizen-led solar power initiative called Sansan Suita. And I share the screen. Wait. Here. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the screen. So who we are? Our group, Sansan Suita, began 1 year ago, not as an energy company, but as citizens deeply concerned about the climate crisis. We have 6 core members, including me, and currently 42 support members. And our mission is to build a resilient, caring, and thriving community through the citizen-led renewable energy. At first, how we started, we tried to encourage the local government, Suita City, to increase the use of renewable energy. But we quickly realized that the numbers were far too low. Even today, only about 4% of electricity comes from renewable energy. And Suita City is in Osaka Prefecture, which is a big city in Japan. Has about 400,000 people and mostly residential areas. So it means we have limited space for wind or large hydro power plants, but rooftop solar has huge potential. So to demonstrate our interest, how many people are interested in solar or renewable energy, we decided to take action by launching this project. So Japan is one of the countries facing serious climate impacts, especially typhoon, and also we have earthquake. But these days, because of the climate change, more and more typhoons and heavy rains occur. So even in a country with strong infrastructure, we need to prepare for more disruptions ahead. And it's especially hard for those who are vulnerable, elderly people, people with disabilities, and also kids. So in the event of disaster, many of those vulnerable people cannot easily evacuate to distant shelters. That's why it's essential to bring energy resilience directly to the facilities that support those people. So in March 2025, so 4 months ago, we completed our first solar power plant on the roof of Inokono Sato, which is a special nursing home for elderly people. So this facility provides care for 80 residents. They are all elder people, and this facility is also designated as an official welfare evacuation site by the city. So this project was the first time for the facility to install solar panel. We have currently 9.9 kilowatt system with 18 kilowatt solar panels, but this covers only part of their electricity needs. So they use, I think, like 10% can be covered by this community power. And now we are considering expansion of this project. And after the installation, we think it's important to provide environmental education opportunity. So once a year, they have a big festival. So we are planning to have a small booth to introduce the merit of renewable energy or the situation of climate crisis there. So the model is simple. So the facility doesn't have to pay the initial cost. Our organization, Sansan Suita, covers by collecting money from citizens. So citizens that do small investment, which is from $670 or donation. And this project lasts for 12 years. So after 12 years, we give this facility, this solar panel to the facility, and then they can use this for free afterwards. But also monthly, the welfare facility pays a monthly fee based on the usage. So not only this nursing house, we are now also in conversations with other welfare-related institutions, including a medical clinic, employment support center for people with disabilities, and also kindergarten. So by installing solar panels on these rooftops, we can combine climate action with care, like health care or welfare, creating a new kind of energy community, we hope. So thank you. And we believe this model holds potential not only for our city, Suita, but for any community facing climate risks and also caring for vulnerable people. So here are our accounts. So please follow our Instagram if you want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irina. And wow, that's one of the most innovative projects that I have heard recently that's centered on renewable energy. It's really a testament that climate justice is very intersectional with other sectors as well. And it's really good to know that how care work was really integrated with the whole project. And thank you very much everyone for sharing your stories. I hope that it inspired others as well to have their own community-led renewable energy in their own communities. And at this juncture, we are now welcoming questions for our panelists. So if you have any questions for Irina, Omkar, and Ibu, you may type it on our chat box or our Q&A box. We're still open for questions if anyone wants to ask. And since we're still waiting for some questions, I actually have a question for directed to Omkar and Ibu, since I have noticed that your projects are very women led, if that's correct. Do you think that what change does it do to communities when women are leading these types of community-led renewable energy projects? Anyone could start, maybe Omkar and then Ibu.
The thing is, still a lot of South Asian countries or like a lot of remote areas still have like deep rooted patriarchy on them. So it's like initially it's a little hard for like women to step up. So what I believe or like what we have seen over the year is like the capacity of women to come out, be a little vocal or like have the leadership skills not only helps in the solar or the energy system, but helps them overall or like also helps them to raise other issues that the society is facing. So that's the benefit that I have seen from like women leadership. And another thing is like if the women are in charge or like they are in the leadership positions, a lot of communities like they welcome other initiatives very wholeheartedly. And it's easier to like talk to people or go deeper on what we are trying to do or what the benefits a new initiative can do. And I think the woman leadership could be something that can be replicated in a lot of different societies. So that's another thing that we highly believe on, and we also like not just around energy or not just around having their own power, but being vocal to other social issues comes along when women are in the leadership.
Thank you, Omkar. And how about you, Ibu?
Ya, terima kasih. Eh, Terkait dengan adanya energi terbarukan yang berbasis komunitas di tempat kami, memang ada perubahan lebih fleksibel karena kalau hanya laki-laki saja tuh kayaknya kurang fleksibel, agak semacam apa ya, keras gitu ya. Kalau ada perempuan yang ada di dalam komunitas tersebut lebih fleksibel dalam komunikasinya maupun dalam eh, apa keputusan, memberikan keputusan. Dan untuk tantangannya ya memang apa ya, kebetulan di tempat kami itu kan desa ya. Jadi untuk eh, menempatkan perempuan di dalam komunitas itu memang agak ini Mas Yan, masih belum eh, terbuka gitu loh, masih baru baru bertahap gitu. Terus kelebihannya yaitu eh, saat kami berada ikut di komunitas itu saling menghargai. Oh, ternyata perempuan bisa diajak untuk kolaborasi seperti itu. Mungkin itu.
Thank you very much, Ibu. And the reason I asked this is because the climate crisis is really intersectional with gendered issues. So when we try to elevate conversations, especially on the topic of gender and women, and it's really nice because aside from the effects of the climate crisis, other things that are experienced by women and other gender diverse individuals also come into the surface. So we could also tackle more on those issues like moving forward. Thank you very much for your insights. And we have a question here from Dunu Roy. How do you engage with governments to change policies? I think everyone could answer this. Maybe we could start with Irina.
Okay, so yeah, it's connected to how we started this project. Actually, we have connection with local government, and 2 years ago, we went to city hall and then talked with the people in charge of environmental policy. And so why can you not increase or like foster the interaction of renewable energy, especially on rooftop of school or city hall, like facilities owned by city. They are doing, and then they are like researching the potential, but we didn't see so much hope there. So we decided to do by ourselves, but still we invite them to our event, or even I get letter from city mayor, so they recognize our project, and then I hope they hear our voice. And then we don't have currently financial support from government, so we are pushing.
Thank you very much, Irina. And how about from Omkar and from Ibu? Omkar and Ibu, if you'd like to answer, how do you engage with governments to change policy?
I think you was talking.
Ya. Terima kasih. Lembaga kami dalam bekerja sama dengan pemerintah, terutama Pemda, kami mengadakan ini sharing gitu loh, sharing tentang energi terbarukan. Apalagi tempat kami untuk listrik kan mahal. Jadi untuk warga masyarakat kami masih sangat menggantungkan energi terbarukan karena energinya sangat murah. Untuk itu kami bekerja dengan pemerintah supaya pemerintah itu memberikan semacam insentif. Akan tapi pemerintah tidak serta-merta itu mudah untuk memberikan insentif. Akan tapi kami sering melakukan mencari apa ya, semacam donatur gitu loh. Kita mengadakan kerjasama baik itu dengan perguruan tinggi, dan kebetulan tempat kami itu sering dijadikan sebagai tempat untuk melakukan kerja nyata dengan dari perguruan tinggi, terutama di Politeknik Jember di Jawa Timur. Selain itu kami juga ini melakukan kerjasama dengan apa CSR dari kemarin itu dapat dari PJB juga. Nah, walaupun dengan dana sedikit tersebut sangat membantu di tempat kami untuk mengembangkan energi terbarukan. Semoga dapat berkelanjutan. Oke, terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Ibu. And would you like to add something, Omkar?
From like our experience, initially we also like had very much difficulty connecting with the government. And also like what we have found is like once you have few good examples, then government would join us later. And we have seen the same thing happening in the Absent village as well. So initially it was all like local people, the Bikas Institute and other technical partners. So later on, when the local government saw what's been going and how effective it has been, now like in recent years, the local government have also started, like they themselves have been calling us how we can work together, or like how we can replicate the similar energy system in a different areas. So what I think is like we need to do something on our own first. Only after seeing some positive response, our government tend to respond us better. And we are also trying to work on policy levels in different tier of government, and we have been working closely with the government to develop things like nationally determined contributions and other policies, and we're trying to incorporate more of like promotion of renewable energy system, or being energy dependent, or having community in forefront of the energy system that has been produced. So we are slowly trying to build around those things, and we are also trying to incorporate more local government rather than the national government, so that local government could take the initiative themselves and replicate the things that has been shared the whole time. So those are those things that we have felt over the years.
All right. Thank you very much, Omkar, Irina, and Ibu for your amazing insights. And thank you so much for sharing your stories. It's truly empowering for people, for especially us from the global south and for people all around the world to hear how you're shaping narratives in your own communities. And hopefully it could create so much difference all across the globe, and especially when it comes to the climate negotiations and everything else. So thank you so much for being here as our speakers. And I know everyone else has so much questions in the chat box. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of time to answer everything right now, but to further explore these questions or stories, we invite someone from 350 Asia's regional finance. We invite 350 Asia's regional finance campaigner, Chuck Baclagon, as a reactor and propel us into 350's exciting plans moving forward.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Yes, I feel honored to be in the company of people who are actually in the work of building the kind of future that we all are looking for. And that's where I would maybe start with. Like the case studies in the previous section of this webinar are, they are case studies of communities that are proofs of concept that a fossil-free world is possible. A fossil-free future where it enables people to thrive, not just survive in harmony with their environment. It's realities that are already being experienced by different communities all across Asia and other parts of the world as well. And maybe just to frame it as well with how 350 Asia works with Reimagine. We are here because we believe that the limits of the possible are there to be moved. Uh, that's why we're holding this session to learn from one another. And it is very critical because we are at a point in time where the impetus for climate action that's based on science and justice is more important now than more than ever. Because climate action right now should be framed into certain perspectives. One is that it should always be informed by science and sound science. I would say that everything we do should be informed by experience, but also by data, and also by an intentional documentation of lived realities on how solutions are being implemented in communities and how we can try to document uh, interventions that undermine what the fossil fuel industry is doing right now. And another thing that's important, I guess, is looking at it from the perspective of how we should not, uh, how we are organizing as well. It's the work that we're doing with Reimagine Asia is an organizing work that does not encourage internalization of victimhood for communities, but showing that leadership comes from the vulnerable, and the vulnerable are the ones that are building the kind of future that we want. And it's also looking at it from the perspective that the current crisis we're looking at is an essential uh, frame. It's essential frame to view the crisis not only as the problem that we're looking at, but it's also an opportunity for us to pivot from resistance to world building, pivoting from the current capitalist consumer society that commodifies people and the planet towards building one where communities, people, and people's health and the future coexist in harmony with their environment. Um, that's why the organizing that we do is all of those things in the case studies are ways of challenging the political economy that reinforces the perpetuation of fossil fuels. It is also a recognition of the importance of two things: resistance from fossil fuel development, but also of solutions. Because it is important because we need to reclaim territories where we put in place solutions to address people's needs, to address other forms of inequities that have been sidelined because of fossil fuel development. Um, that's why I agree with the point on Reimagine Asia about discussions on low carbon insurgencies. The case studies are examples of low carbon insurgencies. They are examples as well of communities of practice on how we are reimagining and implementing a fossil-free world. Um, and I think just to provide substance on Reimagine, it's also looking at it from the three frames that we have produced with Reimagine. We have three R's. You're familiar with the recycling part, but with Reimagine, we say reimagining Asia is about three R's. That the first one is realize. It's about realizing solutions. It's about empowering grassroots communities through training and developing communities of practice. The second R is reimagine. It's about bridging solutions. It's about providing proofs of concept. It's about the important role of communications and storytelling to leverage the success of grassroots that could transform into policy impacts. The last part is reinforce. It's about enabling solutions. There are already mechanisms that communities can be empowered to put in place those solutions on larger scale. It's just a matter of organizing towards greater advocacy engagement to decision-making institutions for providing fair finance, for providing reforms, and for providing safeguards for different kinds of policies. In Asia, that's the kind of intervention that we're doing. For example, with engaging the Asian Development Bank, where we are calling for guardrails and safeguards. We're calling for, at the minimum, energy transition finance that includes clean portfolios, ensuring that future funded energy projects excludes harmful energy solutions like dams, nuclear, waste energy, fossil gas, categorized as transition fuel, and focus on providing portfolios that have a preferential option for decentralized renewable energy. It's also about putting in place transparent investment frameworks where the banks like the ADB implement frameworks that are where they are accountable in their investment practices. They abide to full disclosure of energy projects, including the social and ecological impacts that have usually been externalized in investment frameworks. We want to encourage that transitioning should not be a burden of communities in the long run for resources. So we have an appeal for the prioritization of grants over loans for financing energy transition projects. And the last one, I think, is an important place where we value the voice of the people that are impacted, where it should be a non-negotiable that community consultation and consent are at the bare minimum. It's about ensuring that local communities are consulted, involved in decision-making processes, and their rights and livelihood are protected in all kinds of energy projects. I say this because we believe that a future powered by the sun, the wind, and the people is it's crucial to have warm bodies raising their voice in a public display of collective power and action. That's why I think it's important to note that this activity, this launch of Reimagine Asia, is also a build-up for something big that we're hoping to achieve in September 19 to 21. We call it Draw the Line. I'd like to ask, there you go, the website's flashed. Basically, Draw the Line is that opportunity for collective action where we can display kind of actions that we want for the global community, and for those that are accountable for the climate crisis, both in terms of historical and per capita emissions, to heed the call of justice, to provide the resources for the transition, for the just energy transition to happen. Basically, we are saying that we are drawing the line for a low carbon future. Because when we envision and we enact the kind of clean energy future that we want, and when we name the barriers and obstacles towards realizing that vision, we are staking our claim that the future, and our future is not non-negotiable. It's about our survival, and it's also about our need to thrive in the context of climate change. So I guess I would end with that. Let's take the streets and go out on those dates. And if you're planning to organize an action, you can use the website. And then also, if you are looking for an action to join, the website also has functions that would guide you to the closest action that will be happening on those dates. So thank you very much, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chuck. And as the Draw the Line mobilization is our big moment to make the people's voices heard and to give us more background on the recent Bonn climate talks that I was privileged to attend. Um, let's welcome Andreas Sieber, Associate Director of Global Policy and Campaigns of 350.org. Since we need world leaders gathering for the UN climate talks in Brazil to make real, decisive, and urgent action for the climate. Now we'll invite Andreas to talk about what happened in the June climate talks and what we can expect at the Conference of Parties.
Thanks so much. I see the screen is just about to be shared. All right, thanks. So thanks very much, first of all, for having me. Really fascinating to and humbling to listen to all of you. And amazing to see all this work. Indeed, just came kind of back from the June climate talks, and that was a sobering experience in the sense of that things are really stuck. But before getting into that, I thought it could be helpful to just contextualize where things are at when we go to Belém, where COP30 will happen and where world leaders will meet. So 2 years ago, 350 and many allies fought very hard to get a decision in the GST, the global stocktake, to transition away from fossil fuels and to triple renewable energy globally. Now that might sound like just the kind of most basic of decisions, but literally every country in the world had to agree to this. So from the US to China, from states such as Saudi Arabia to Germany to South Africa to Malaysia to the Philippines, everybody had to agree. And that's, of course, a hugely complex negotiations. And it was a milestone that countries agreed on this. And now, over the past 2 years, countries are to hand in their national climate targets, their NDCs. And on the road of this kind of like from COP28, from this landmark decision to this year in Belém. Last year, we had a COP in Azerbaijan that was about a new finance goal because many countries in the global south and many people and communities need climate finance. I'll get into the climate finance bit a bit more, but what is important to understand is that rich countries really didn't deliver climate finance at scale at COP, and this is a huge economic and political roadblock still that we now have to deal with in the negotiations. It is also a huge matter of justice, of course. So just to give a bit of context for the negotiations, because I'm happy to talk to the very details and the paragraphs that happened in Bonn, but I think understanding this context is even maybe more important for us as a movement. So we have the geopolitical polarization. It doesn't make things easier. We have a lack of finance. And the COP30 presidency, the Brazilians have been somewhat ambiguous on energy. They really expand oil back at home. There's different parts in the government, and we must hold them accountable to deliver progress on the energy transition. And we see that the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, so the last point you see here on the left, show a quality shift. So we see that the NDCs are much better in putting forward actually energy targets. And that is huge news, right? Like in the last round of climate targets, every 5 years, countries have to put forward new targets. Those targets really didn't include something on energy most of the time. This times they do, and that matters. That matters a lot because it enables planning, it enables accountability, and it enables transformation ultimately from fossil fuels to renewables. So that's good news that we see this quality shift, but the level of ambition is just not there that we can already see. And we will see, specifically when we go to September, when we mobilize, we will see some of the major blocks coming in. Of course, China, of course, the EU, the kind of big other rich country bloc besides the US that now dropped out under this crazy government they have. So we will also see India, Indonesia, and a bunch of others. Mexico, probably one of the G20 countries, putting forward something fairly good. So we will see all that aggregate in September. And then, but we already can tell that it won't be enough to reach to limit global warming to 1.5. So what does COP30 need to do in that context? COP30 must provide a response to the ambition falling short. Oh wait, sorry. Could you? Is that a friendly sign that I need to speed up? But I'll be quick with that slide. We need to provide a response to the ambition gap. Energy, burning fossil fuels is 75% of the climate crisis, so that needs to be part of it. And we need to make progress in the formal agenda and negotiated outcome, but also see how do we use the Leaders Summit and other elements at COP. And what role does finance play? And that's my final slide already. Now let's go forward. Because clearly we very urgently need climate finance. We need around 4 to 5 trillion yearly investment annually in the energy transition globally. In 2022, we're at around 1.7 trillion. We're now at around 2 trillion. So really money in renewables is going up, but it's far too slow and it's very, very unevenly distributed. So only 15% of all finance that goes to renewables goes to countries in the global south outside of China. The rest goes to China, the US, Japan, Europe, and so on and so forth. And we need to understand why that is and how we can address it. And that's what I'll close with. Why that is? First, in high-income countries, over 80% of green investment is funded by the private sector. In emerging and developing economies, it's only about 14%. That's a huge difference. The reason for that is, to a large extent, that you just have to pay much higher interest rates because our financial markets are inherently unfair to people from lower income countries. There is good research that not only shows that the risk in these countries is higher, but in fact that there's colonial heritage, there is unfair valuation of the risks in these countries, and they are penalized. People in countries are penalized by financial markets in a hugely unfair way. So if you want to lend money to pay for your project, it's just much harder in a developing country. There's a few other reasons, but we know that the financial markets are hugely unfair. So what do we need to do is rich countries need to provide, and predominantly rich countries need to provide much more climate finance in two forms. A, concessional finance, and B, grants. Concessional finance is basically you also lend money, but you reduce the interest rate to a level so it's fair. However, and developed countries and multilateral development banks like to prefer that approach because they can still make money from lending money, and there's a lot of cheating going on here. But we also will need grants. So really just provide finance, in particular when it comes to providing energy for people without energy access, for supporting the development of infrastructure. A huge part of the energy investment needed is in infrastructure, and that so grids, storage, and so on and so forth. And private finance will just be very inadequate in many parts of the world to address this challenge. So the quality of finance really, really matters, both in terms of what kind of finance is provided, so it's not debt inducing, and that it actually allows for the projects to be built. And the other part that is hugely important here, and we heard from a lot of amazing community projects today, is that the finance needs to be accessible for communities and for actual people, and also small scale projects, not only for consultants and agencies and so on and so forth. And dealing with that and coming to and grappling with that, especially in the aftermath of a fairly unsatisfying finance goal, will be also a key challenge at COP30, in addition to responding to the gap in ambition we will see from the nationally determined contributions and climate goals. Yeah, I'm done here. Thanks so much for listening to me. Happy to take any questions, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and thank you for sharing what we could expect from the 30th Conference of Parties. And thank you very much, Chuck, for giving us more context on where we are heading to in the next few months or years. So now we are opening the floor to some questions, and maybe Andreas and Chuck, you could also check our Q&A box on which questions you'd like to answer. To our audiences, you may ask questions directly to Chuck and Andreas about the things that they presented. And maybe we could cater some questions also on the chat box. All right, there's one question here from the Q&A box. If maybe Andreas or Chuck could answer this. How can humanity confront the climate crisis as a class struggle, dismantling the capitalist metabolic rift, decolonizing agriculture and energy systems, and advancing socialist agroecology that restores ecosystems, guarantees food sovereignty, and ensures the collective well-being of all rather than the profit of a few? Maybe this could also be answered through the lens of climate financing, if that's possible.
I can take a stab at it, but I think it's a very big question. There's a lot of big ideas in that question, but I think if we would look at it from the perspective of climate finance, I think the starting point there is to look at it from the perspective that finance that the global south is looking for is not a matter of one, it's not a matter of charity. It's also not a matter of economic argument, although there is that economic argument for that, but it's actually a matter of justice. If we go back to the core principle of climate justice, that is common but differentiated responsibilities and capacities, it is taking into account that while the climate crisis impacts everyone, its impacts are not evenly distributed. There are many factors that determine how a certain community, a certain country could, not only survive, but thrive in the context of climate change. And for that idea of thriving in the context of climate change to happen, we have to take into account who are the most responsible, who have the biggest contributions. So that's where the historical and per capita emission argument comes in. But also look at it from the perspective that countries that are bearing the brunt of fossil fuel, of climate change, are not countries that have historically benefited from economies that have been very dependent on fossil fuel development. So for finance to flow and for justice to be met, there should be that recognition that it is a crisis, that while it is anthropogenic in origin, there should be, there should be distinctions on the contributions. And of course, those that have caused the most harm have the accountability and the historical responsibility for redress of those vulnerable countries that have been very much impacted by the crisis that they have created.
Thank you very much, Chuck. And thank you for highlighting that the effects of the climate crisis are disproportionate among different sectors. And would you like to add something, Andreas?
I think that was an excellent answer. I think
right.
I don't have much to add.
And for our last question, it's from Dunu Roy. There are so many stories from around Asia that show how the vulnerable have mobilized to provide solid evidence of human or animal energy as renewable routes of alternative economies that were in fact destroyed by governments and corporations. There are also numerous studies that document the environmental impacts of hydro, solar, and nuclear. Shouldn't these be included in the discussions? And just to add, India's climate action plan is illusionary at best. Maybe Andreas, you'd like to start?
Yeah, I think if I understand the question correctly, it is about that it is not only about shifting to renewables, but rather to not repeat extractivism and unfair colonial and so on and so forth systems. I couldn't agree more with all of this. This is not only true for, of course, the deployment of renewable energy, but also the supply chains of it and the manufacturing. And we know that in many countries, frontline communities, indigenous peoples, often the poorest, suffer from mining and extractivism. And it's the same industries, the fossil industry that see a huge business opportunity in this, and this is not okay. So when at 350 globally we started to work on renewable energy, the first thing we did was actually to put forward what we called principles and guardrails. By that we mean we have some principles. This is the kind of perfect type of renewable energy we want, and you can imagine, right? Like it's community owned. It's like, you know, like it reaches people and so forth. But then also guardrails is in the sense that we recognize not every time it will be perfect. And we also had, and by that I don't want to kind of through the back door justify extractivist practices, right? But there's a spectrum of solutions that we think is all right, and we need to be very thorough in evaluating this. So a colleague of ours, for instance, developed a scorecard for renewables, right, where you can see like how just is it actually, how good is that certain renewable project performing, to then evaluate, do you want to support it or not. So just fully agree with the need to do renewables, but do them right. The other point that struck me quite a lot was a point that a colleague of ours from the Pacific, one of the obviously most affected regions, was making. And he said, urgency is justice. So I think there's two dimensions we need to address, and they're difficult to balance, but we need to address both. And one is the non-extractivist nature of the solution and of the systems we put forward as alternatives. And the other is, however, also the speed, and really scale up renewables at a speed that meets the challenge of the climate crisis. Because if we put forward we cannot put forward renewables that just repeat extractivist system. At the same time, we also if we put forward the perfect solutions but scale them up as the slowest speed possible, or at super slow speed, and that means people will be displaced, people will be even more affected by climate change at 3 degrees of warming, which is what we're currently heading for. People across the Asian regions will be affected by heat waves combined with humidity that are literally unsurvivable every few years. So there is also justice in the urgency, and balancing both is a super non-mundane thing, but we need to open-eyed and ambitiously, we need to tackle both.
Thank you very much, Andreas. And to the and to Dunu Roy, who opened that question. Thank you very much. It's truly important to have a just transition when it comes to transitioning to renewable energy. So um, our solutions would not be extractive, and it's also important to democratize renewable energy. And to Chuck and to Andreas, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you so much for being here as our panelists for this webinar. And before we end, we'd like to invite everyone to reimagine schools by watching this short video from the Philippines. It's from PUP. It's PUP Solar Charging Station.
Bakit charging station? Ito po yung sa thesis po namin. Initially po is for grid purposes. Pero along its way po, parang siyempre gusto na din namin matulungan yung mga estudyante, most especially po na kukunti lang po yung mga outlets po dito, and we want to expand po na para mas marami po yung mga outlets and mas accessible po siya sa mga students. So 150 watts po yung sa solar panel po namin, and yung sa Bluetti, which is yun yung pinaka-power po na magsusupply dito sa charging station. Yung capacity niya is meron siyang 8 outlets, tapos may 2 USB port for phones, tapos yung outlets is sa mga laptops lang. Pinangunahan po namin yung dito po muna sa code, and ayun po, yun po yung naging isang challenges po namin is sa first time po namin. Like, first time sa welding, sa grinder, sa pagko-code.
For me po, hindi po magiging hindrance po yung parang hindi po natin alam. Kasi po meron na po tayong mga technologies at saka yung mga sa YouTube, meron po tayong mga course po doon na pwedeng magturo po sa atin. So mas mabilis na rin po yung access natin na para mag-install po ng solar panels po natin. Yung paggamit po kasi natin ng renewable energy is malaki rin po ang responsibility na kumakatawan po sa napapanahong issue. So kung mas may alam po tayo sa paggamit or sa pag-install ng panels po natin sa bahay is mas ma-downsize po natin yung negative impact na idudulot ng paggamit po natin ng mga grids na galing po sa mga fossil fuel.
Yun po, ang solar charging station po yung naging parang alternative solution para mapabawasan po yung paggamit po ng fossil fuel. And knowing din po kasi na mainit ngayon, parang i-take na lang din po yung advantage na yun para yun po, magamit po natin yun sa solar. Sana po, parang may expand pa siya outside PUP.
If we work hand in hand, we can create a huge impact po sa ating environment. This project will benefit not only us, but also yun nga po yung planet po natin. Our actions today determines what kind of Earth we will have in the future po.
Fossil free! PUP! Fossil free! PUP! Fossil free! PUP!
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this webinar. And as we are nearing the end, I am inviting everyone to join the movement to reimagine Asia, sign the Reimagine Asia pledge, to raise our voices to demand a better future for Asia, one that's powered by the sun, the wind, and the people. And this September, we will draw the line. Together, we'll rise in momentous global action to show where Asia's energy future must go, away from fossil fuels and toward justice. And at this point, you may share this to your friends and colleagues and everyone in your community, people outside of your echo chambers, so that together we can achieve climate justice. Thank you everyone once again for attending. And again, I am Celestia. I'm a drag queen and a climate activist from the Philippines. Thanking you all for attending here.
Thank you, Celestia. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Celestia. Thanks all.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.